So PAP has officially won GE 2025, and now everyone from first-time buyers to property watchers is asking the same question. What's going to happen to HDB prices next? Are they going to skyrocket like they did after GE 2011? Or is the government going to step in early with cooling measures and keep them under control? Should you buy now before things get more expensive, or wait for prices to come back down? Here's the thing, we have been here before, more than once. And if there's anything we have learned from the past 15 years of elections to policy cycles, is this. What happens to HDB prices after a general election isn't random. It follows a predictable pattern. Now, we are not here to speculate. Every claim in this video is grounded in historical data, real-world policy responses, and pricing trends following Singapore's previous election. We went through the stats, studied the policies, and found case studies of buyers who got in at the right time and others who didn't. So by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly how HDB prices have responded to PAP victories in the past, how long it typically takes for new housing policies to show up, and most importantly, how you can make a smarter, more strategic decision about your next move. But first, let's rewind a little to understand the cycle most people miss. Let's start with GE 2011. PAP won the election but barely just 60.1% of the vote. That was the lowest since independence. Public dissatisfaction was high, and one of the biggest pain points, housing affordability. Leading up to the election, HDB prices had risen for 15 consecutive quarters. People were angry, anxious, and in many cases, priced out. And after the election, prices kept rising. Not immediately, but within just one quarter, the resale price index went up another 3.8%. In the 6 months that followed, it climbed even higher. Now here's the thing, the government didn't step in right away. It wasn't until December 2011, 6 months after the election, that the first serious cooling measure appeared, the additional buyer's stamp duty. But even that wasn't enough. It took until January 2013, almost 2 years post-election, before we saw the most aggressive moves: tighter loan-to-value limits, the mortgage servicing ratio, and finally, the total debt servicing ratio in June that year. So, what does that mean? It means if you bought a resale flat shortly after GE 2011, you likely bought at the peak, before policies kicked in and values started dropping. And that brings us to Gerald's story. Gerald was a 21-year-old IT manager in 2011. He had just gotten married and decided to purchase a 4-room resale flat in Queenstown. He was worried prices might climb even higher, so he rushed to buy. The price, $690,000. Now, to be fair, prices did climb a little in the months right after his purchase. But by 2013, when the TDSR framework kicked in, valuations started to drop. By 2015, his flat was valued closer to $630,000. Same flat, same location, but because of when he bought, he paid $60,000 more than buyers who waited just 2 years. Now, let's contrast that with GE 2015. This time, the PAP won with a strong mandate, 69.9% of the vote. It was a confident win, and with that confidence came with market optimism. There weren't major new housing policies rolled out immediately. Instead, the market naturally began to stabilize. Resale prices dipped slightly and then leveled off. And this was where Melissa made her move. Melissa had been eyeing a BTO flat but was unsure about timing. In 2014, she held off because prices still felt high. But in early 2016, she successfully balloted for a 4-room flat in Punggol. Her final purchase price, around $330,000. 4 years later, her flat valuation was up almost $150,000. Why the difference? She bought after the PAP strong win, during a period of policy calm and gently falling prices. She didn't try to time the exact bottom, she timed the policy rhythm. GE 2020 brought a new twist. With the pandemic unfolding, the government introduced massive support schemes. Uncertainty was high, but so was demand. Remote work made people crave more for space. Construction delays made resale flats more attractive. The PAP still won, though with a smaller mandate than 2015. Yet, prices didn't wait. By Q3 of 2020, HDB resale prices went up by about 5%. Supply was tight, confidence was high, and policies, well, they didn't come until much later. This brings us to where we are now. GE 2025 is over. The PAP has won again. So, what happens next. If history tells us anything, is this: a PAP win, especially a strong one, usually leads to a short-term price surge in the HDB resale market. Why? Because confidence spikes. People feel secure in the political climate, and when people feel secure, they buy. Developers and sellers know this. They anticipate increased demand and prices start to inch up. But, and this is the most part most people forget, the cooling measures that eventually follow don't come immediately. They usually arrive 6 to 12 months later, sometimes longer. So, if you are in the market to buy a flat, especially a resale flat, you need to understand the window you are in right now. You are in the post-election confidence wave. And this wave typically lasts just long enough for prices to rise before government steps in to bring them down again. Let's pause here, because this is where your strategies come into play. Should you buy now? Well, that depends. If you are looking at a BTO launch, you are in a good spot. BTO prices are more tightly regulated and affordability tends to be protected even during boom periods. But if you are considering resale, especially in matured estates or high demand areas, you need to consider how long you're willing to hold on, because if you buy at today's peak and cooling measures comes in 6 months from now, your valuation could drop in the short term. Even if you're not planning to sell soon, this affects your refinancing options, your cash flow, and your overall assets value. Now, let's talk about policy. Because based on PAP's track record, the question isn't if new housing measures are coming, is when. So, when can we expect in terms of policy after GE 2025? Since PAP mandate was strong, similar to 2015, then the urgency for immediate intervention may not be high. The government may monitor the price trends and wait until deploying anything drastic. This means buyers could face several quarters of continued price growth before any brakes are applied. But if the wind was narrower, closer to 2011 levels, then history suggests the government will be more proactive. Why? Because housing remains one of the biggest sources of political dissatisfaction, and if post-election sentiment is shaky, affordability measures are often used to restore trust. Still, remember this: policy moves takes time. Crafting new eligibility rules, recalibrating income ceilings, and adjusting loan limits, these aren't things that happen overnight. So, if you are trying to wait for the drop, you might end up waiting longer than you think. That said, there are signs to watch out for. First, watch for public statements. If you see ministers from MND or MAS start talking about keeping housing affordable or maintaining stability in the market, that's usually the first breadcrumb. Next, look at CPF housing grants changes. In the past, enhancements to CPF housing grants have signaled the government's intent to cool resale demand by making BTOs or less popular locations more attractive. Finally, track the rollout of BTO launches. A sudden increase in supply, especially in mature estates, is another sign that the government is trying to redistribute demand and ease the pressure of the resale market. So here's what I recommend. If you're buying resale in the next 3 months, do your valuation homework. Compare historical prices in the area. Check if prices have already jumped since the election results. If you're noticing aggressive COVs, cash over valuation amounts, being demanded, that's a red flag. It often means you're buying into hype, not long-term value. If you can wait 6 to 9 months, watch out how policies evolve. Track announcements, pay attention to sentiments. Because even if prices continue rising short-term, a well-timed BTO ballot or a purchase after next cooling measures could save you tens of thousands of dollars. Let's not forget the psychology at play here either. Post-elections periods often comes with a spike in buyers' behavior. Not because buyers need homes more than before, but because they feel the urgency. Is what behavioral economists call the market sentiment overreaction. People see prices rising, they hear their neighbors talking about buying, and suddenly they feel like if they don't act now, they are left behind. That's exactly what happened in 2010 and again in 2021. Buyers flooded the resale market out of fear of missing out. But in both cases, policies followed shortly after, and prices flattened, or in some cases, dip. So the emotional impulse to buy now before it's too late might actually be the most expensive decision you make. Let's make this actionable. Here's what you can do right now. First, set a 6-month tracking calendar. Monitor BTO launches, resale price index updates, and policies announcements. Second, follow trusted sources, not just hype. Look for detailed breakdowns from official sites like HDB's, MND's, and URA, not just TikTok videos saying HDB prices will never go down. Third, run simulations. Use a HDB loan calculator, resale flat budget planner, and CPF tools to see how different policy changes like a reduced loan to value or tighter MSR might affect your eligibility or monthly payments. This is the kind of preparation most buyers don't do, but you are not most buyers. If you have made it this far into the video, you are clearly someone who wants to be smart, not just fast. And remember Gerald and Melissa? Gerald bought too soon, too fast. He trusted the momentum, not the timeline. Melissa waited, tracked, and won. You have the same opportunity. You don't need perfect timing. You need pattern recognition. Let's recap everything we have covered so far. 1. PAP has won GE 2025, and if history repeats itself, we will see a short-term bump in HDB prices driven up by buyers' confidence. Number 2, policies responses will likely lag behind by 6 to 12 months, meaning there's a brief window where demands outpace supply and prices may surge. And 3, resale buyers need to be especially cautious. High prices today could mean negative equity tomorrow if prices kick in hard. And number 4, BTO buyers are in safer spot but need to watch for launch locations, grant tweaks, and shifting eligibility criteria. And number 5, you can read the signs. Public statements, CPF grant changes, and BTO volume increases are all signals that policies is about to shift. And 6, the difference between a good decision and a bad one could be as simple as waiting 6 months or more. So, what should you do now? If you learned something from this video, subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one.